Onuku Runanga, Wairewa Runanga, the Akaroa Taiapure Management Committee and Te Runanga o Ngai Tahu to come to the table.
She's just handing it out.
Welcome.
Ka te rāti hei Māori ora, ko te hiki ki te rangi, ko te Wairewa Waiti e rere kitai, ko Kati e te kehu, ko Ngai Tarewa ki te whenua, ko Onuku te marae, ko Rick Tainui Takawinua. And with me today is Pip Lynch, Senior Environmental Planner from Ngai Tahu. So we will be presenting together today. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
A lot of you councillors will be familiar with the Akaroa wastewater conversation that we've had for the last few years, and especially over the last couple of years. So what we're going to talk about today is the surprise that we got when the draft long-term plan came out in regards to there not being sufficient budget to make sure that the wastewater was removed from Akaroa Harbour, and made some notes, and you've received some information from us this morning around your long-term plan that highlight a couple of points that we would like to make this morning. And the first one is on page 7 of the long-term plan, and where it says the council is proposing to defer work to renew wastewater infrastructure to free up funding to improve roads. Nothing wrong with that, but it also says the draft strategy advises that for budgetary reasons the council may not be able to move to a land-based wastewater reuse and disposal system for Akaroa. We've spent obviously a lot of time and money and resources working closely with the council to get a land use result here. So so that is it's surprising to see that from our point of view. Also, I'll just make a point that in section 4.2 of the council's 30-year infrastructure strategy, 2018 to 2048, it states that the most likely option is to continue with the current approach to discharge to Akaroa Harbour. And obviously, we are opposed to that and interested to see, where the council's at, considering that we've spent a lot of time with the Akaroa community and with, the council staff trying to find an outcome that, where everyone is happy. Do you want to add anything like that?
No, I think that covers it.
Covers it? So, if you can see where our position is, we are seeking that additional funding is provided in the LTP to enable a land-based wastewater reuse and disposal system option to be progressed for the township of Akaroa. And we're also hoping that that won't affect what's happening at Devotional, where we obviously are supportive of them also having, irrigation to land there as well. Do you want to talk about point 2?
And our second point is a little bit wider and relates to the diversion of wastewater infrastructure funding to roading. which Rick has previously mentioned. In the consultation document on page 32, it advises that the Council's current proposal will provide insufficient funding for the current wastewater pipe network, and this will consequently result in more overflows of untreated wastewater into the environment. So that's for Christchurch City as well. As you're probably very aware, Ngāi Tahu is opposed to any form of wastewater discharge into freshwater and coastal waters, and we seek for Council to perhaps not defer all of the funding, and not that they're deferring all, but don't defer as much, and so more our budget is freed up so that infrastructure can become online to reduce the number of overflows of untreated wastewater from the Council's networks into the environment.
That's probably it from us.
Look, thanks, Rick, and I'm just sort of apologetic that the framing of the conversation around the consultation document was something certainly that I overlooked, and it's not wording I would have chosen specifically. The wording as it reads is, but as you've referred, it goes further than this, but it says we may not be able to move to a land-based wastewater reuse and disposal system in Akaroa. And I think what's happened is that as this very complex consultation document has been put together, coupled with the infrastructure strategy, there has been a balancing across a number of things, and the Akaroa situation has really not been framed in line with the obligations that we actually want to share with Ngāi Tahu, and that's not to discharge into the harbour. So, but as you know, we've had to get an extension of time on the discharge consent for the simple reason that the calculation on the amount of wastewater was grossly underestimated, and it has led to us to consider a variety of alternative options. Now, there certainly isn't enough money on the budget to put a pipe through the hill and take it out to open sea on the other side. There isn't. I think, am I framing that correctly? Yep. And so, so it is technically accurate that there may not be sufficient on budget for an alternative to discharge into the harbour, but we ain't given up on that at all, and your submission to us on the LTP is very timely and very appropriate, and it's something that we want to continue to work with you on getting a result on. But I'll start with Andrew.
Thank you, and I would echo the Mayor's comments. I mean, I was certainly disappointed both in the wording in the document. I think it could have been worded much better to reflect where we're at in the conversation with the community. And I was also disappointed that I didn't pick that up before the document went out into public circulation as well. But the specific question, your position on point 1 of your submission, Ngāi Tahu seek that additional funding is provided in the LTP. Now, you'll be aware of the investigations at the moment into deep well injection, and if those investigations are successful and if they're able to be supported, we may get to a position where we can achieve a solution for wastewater in Akaroa that doesn't involve discharge to the harbour, that may not be more expensive than the original budget. So I'm assuming when you say additional funding, sufficient funding probably would be a better way of expressing that. If we can come up with a solution that meets the cultural considerations and which is technically feasible and workable, that's within budget, you would be supportive of that. What you're really saying is that you don't want us to be even thinking about a default position where we discharge to the harbour because of cost reasons.
I think that's a fair summation, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay, Phil. Answered. Yanni.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. You're again seeking additional funding and concerned that we're deferring some projects for the benefit of others, e.g. the roading. Have you got any other have you looked at our LTP and looked at any other projects you think we should make lower priority if we wanted to make the things that you have raised a higher priority? And if so, what would they be?
For me, the answer is no, Yanni, but
No, not really.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, look, thank you very much, and I appreciate you making the effort to appear in person. I know that it's a bit of a travel for you, Rick, but thank you very much for making the effort to come. It's a very powerful submission. Thank you.